everybody. My name is Josiah Gilliam. I'm the executive director at Pump, and this is Greg Mitrik, director of Pittsburgh Sports League.
Hello.
Our largest program, and we thought we'd try a little bit of a different format here, an experiment,
Right.
to talk about the organization, to talk about PSL, to talk about what the experience has been like, recently in the city and with the program and in general. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
Cool. So it's a cool opportunity. Anytime you get to talk with someone that's been at a nonprofit in the city of Pittsburgh, a community-based organization in Pittsburgh, for a long time, because that's pretty rare. You've been at the organization. I think you're the longest tenured employee of Pump ever. Is that correct?
Believe so, yeah.
So let's zoom out and do a little bit of context, setting for what the organization is. So Pump was started right in the mid '90s.
Right.
What's your take on the origin story of the organization? How do you explain it?
I think it's awesome. So, I was, when Pump got started, I was, a teenager. So obviously not super aware of it, going through high school, things like that. But hearing the backstory with the brain drain and, people leaving the city and looking for retention, and then understanding, looking back now that there was a void of adult mixed gender recreational sports in the city. There was nothing being run through Parks and Rec. There was no organizations doing anything like that. And so, with Pump being founded as a way to advocate for, different things throughout the city, whether it was the smoking ban back then when I was right on the cusp of drinking age. And, I think those were all cool that, I, again, not knowing at the time, in real time, knowing that that's how that kind of stuff happened and worked,
right.
That there needed to be organizations that were champions of these different things that were important to people to live, right? To grow, to put down roots, to establish themselves in the city. So, now it makes sense that people were leaving because those things kind of weren't established, and knowing what I know now and the folks that we engage with and reach out to us every day is, I'm new to the city. I just graduated. I just finished my, internship. I now am so far into my, job. I now have a chance to pick my head up and, recreate again. But being that the organization was started as a retention organization, right? To get people to stay or bring them back to the city.
Yeah.
Super cool, right?
Very cool.
And the fact that we're still doing that today, almost 30 years later as an organization, almost 25 years later as a sports league, is awesome.
It is awesome. So it's a perfect way, intro into it. So Michelle Founza, we're actually in Oakland right now. She's a student at the University of Pittsburgh. She's noticing all of her peers, her friends, they're leaving the city.
Right. The
steel mills, collapse, all that. The bottom kind of fell out of the economy in a lot of ways. People left the region in droves. She writes an op-ed about this, and it gets noticed by other people around her age, and it kind of leads to organic meetups. And they start, hanging out, talking about that. So to create an organization that kind of formalizes this intention of young people wanting to see a brighter future, but then to provide those access points, to your point, is super rare, super compelling. I believe at the time it actually picked up some national traction because it was like an organic movement of young professionals in a Rust Belt city, kind of thing. Didn't really happen, all that much. So they formalized, they create the Pittsburgh Urban Magnet Project. So that's where Pump comes from. Mm-hmm. And they keep doing that kind of stuff, meet and greets. They do civic forums right away with elected officials. They program Market Square and did games and engage with the community about what the organization could be. They took a look at other cities, noticed that there's vibrant sports leagues, co-ed, adult recreational leagues happening in other cities, and let's create one here.
Yeah.
But let's create it out of that intention to give people a chance to meet one another, to explore, to have an impact in the city of Pittsburgh and have fun while they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And to your point, 30 years of the organization next year, which is in and of itself rare, and PSL is 25 years old this year.
This fall, right?
So how did this the PSL first get on your radar? What are some of your first memories of the program?
Yeah, so the first thing that's funny about the start of PSL, right? It was flag football. It was the first sport. I think it speaks to this football town, right?
Sure.
And
no
picking up that.
There.
So if there was, if I'd have not heard of the organization, or if I went to organizations like the PSL around the country and I said, "What was your first sport?" flag football wouldn't be mine.
Right.
So wouldn't be my guess. So,
Right.
I think that's a cool beginning, that with flag football. What was your question?
What are your first memories of the program
Experiences,
itself?
right? Yeah. So out of college, I got a job as the director of the PAA in Oakland.
Down the street here?
Yeah, right down the street here, or used to be right down the street here.
Right.
And as the athletic director there, we had a gym space, and we rented gym space for basketball for PSL. And so my first interaction with PSL was they were just this sports league that, that came in 2 nights a week and played basketball. They rented our gym space, and I recognized the T-shirts. And then I grew up in Homestead originally, then in Munhall, and then going and working out in the gym there. I saw PSL played basketball down there. So my first impression was basketball, right? It was just basketball, a basketball league that played. The PAA was a private club. It had some old money. That's when like the LA Fitnesses of the world were coming on. So, the private clubs weren't, you got the same amenities in these public spaces. So you didn't have to pay the premiums of private clubs. So over time, layoffs happened, 2008. I mean, everybody was laid off in 2008. And so, my journey began familiarizing myself with, different sports leagues as a sport management major, a sports background, all over the city. And then through a friend of mine who sold payroll to Pump, walking into the old Regional Enterprise Tower in Pittsburgh. Again, not knowing what the PSL was, got on a basketball team and got on a softball team with the employees of Pump at the time. Through those conversations, found out there was an assistant director for the PSL job opening up as an expanding program. And said I got the perfect guy for it. And I happen to be that perfect guy. And 15 years later, I am.
Yeah. So it's obviously grown past those flag football and basketball days.
Right.
Tell us about the current version of PSL, especially now that, kind of coming out of COVID, we've started to get back to kind of the full slate.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because, I would like to think back, but I would guarantee we've ran almost over 20 sports in total in my time here. There's some one-offs that we did. Some had some more staying power than other, but we run about 12 now, full-time leagues. Are coming out of COVID, getting back into the routine of weekly sports leagues. We've seen things like volleyball tick up. That was our first sport back after COVID. Separated by net, you're already in your pods of friends that you're comfortable being around. There was less worry there.
Yeah.
So, but that has then grown for us over time. And so we run about 12 sports over anywhere 3 to 5 seasons, 3 seasons outdoors, 5 seasons indoors. And it's a nice mix. And there's offerings for all different skill levels. Something like volleyball has everything from competitive down to beginner, to where, bowling, there is no skill level required. Cornhole, no skill level required. And a lot of them are mixed gender, where there's some requirements around how many males and females are to be playing at a time. You're more of the outdoor sports like softball, kickball, flag football. But, generally speaking, that's kind of like the engine of the program. We like to consider it is these 7 to 9 week seasons just kind of roll back to back to back, and they keep people engaged on a nightly and weekly and seasonally basis. And, that's kind of what the heart and soul of the PSL is and has been for almost 25 years.
Yeah. So you shared an article with me recently about how adult recreation is kind of having a moment across the country.
Sure is.
It seems to be a big thing right now. And we'll get into the SSIA in a minute because there's PSLs all over the country,
right?
Kansas City, Chicago, et cetera. Different formats, different approaches. Sometimes there's city varieties of the same idea,
right, yeah.
Which is interesting. But I think it's fair to say adult recreation's having a moment in Pittsburgh too. You being the director, what's your take on why that is? And you guys have also been evolving the formats available recently too. Like, what's some of the thinking behind that?
Yeah. So again, coming out of COVID, kind of our thinking had to change and adapt to what is, what the world is like now, right? So everything from internally of working in a remote environment, right? Trying to see what that looks like instead of going in the office and essentially sharing a brain among staff of like what's going on and who's where and doing all that. So we've, had to do that kind of change, but then apply that to what our membership wants, right? And so there are still people who are committed to the 9-week, seasons, but there are also folks that just want to try one thing, right? Or they're new. Like I said, we have all of these people, and it was like just reading my emails and just seeing how many was like striking that I was like, okay, we need to do something for these people, right? We need to find a way to get them involved with our organization, because we are like a 98% team-based registration where one person signs a team up, they play the role as captain, they are responsible for getting all their players together, communicating who's going to be there. Like it's a thankless job, right? But we couldn't be what we are without those captains, and a lot of them are long time captains who play multiple seasons, multiple nights. But really there was this like, okay, let's try and get these these folks that are trying to engage with us, to get them in our tent, right? Let's show them everything we have going on. And we have a play solo series that we actually started probably pre-COVID, where it was just like a once a month kind of thing. We've then amplified that last year through the sand volleyball programs, because we ran our sand volleyball league, but then there was like a handful of weeks and the weather was great. We didn't want to risk running another league and then running out of daylight and warm weather. And so we just used those permits and had pickup nights, and they were very successful. Took that and applied it globally this winter. We found some more gym space, became available after some conversations with whether it was public schools, rec centers in the city, different things like that. We found some more gym space, and we've hosted these what we call play solo pickup nights. And they're a variety of sports. So you can see pickleball, volleyball, basketball. We did a kickball. We have wiffle ball. And so those are your sport-based ones. But then we have some other team-oriented ones of we did some climbing with Ascend. We have a Mario Kart tournament coming up. So, a handful of those are, you don't need a specific skill level. They're more learn, right? Learn to play, learn to climb with Ascend. For the video gamers out there, because they're competitors too, right? And they're we did some esports during COVID too, so we're re-engaging with that community as well. So offering those multitude of avenues to engage with us has been really important, and so that's kind of where we're at now. We'll see how that plays out over the summer, because we really get really busy when we go outside, but it's also those folks still there, right? In the summer and time, and especially more wanting to get out. And so we'll have to figure out what those puzzle pieces kind of look like here for the summer and spring, once the weather turns, if it turns.
Yeah.
It's been pretty cold winter. So, that's what a program currently looks like.
It is March, so, weather may be changing.
This is March, right?
It'll certainly be changing. We just don't know what it'll look like.
Right.
But, I mean, this response it seems to be directly because people are ready to be out and about again.
Right.
And you mentioned we have a majority team-based kind of sign-up experience. It's people wanting to hang out with their friends, you think?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the trend, is people they're more comfortable going back out now. They have they're looking to meet new people. And they want to do it in an active way, not in a passive way where it's just something where it's just a happy hour. While we do happy hours and they're very rewarding, these specific participants are looking to stay active. They're almost putting that in their request form. Just looking to get back outside, looking to stay active, looking to, and I think that's part of the mental health, right? Everybody's gone through a mental health journey here, since COVID, and there's a lot of value in just being active. Get your heart rate up, meet new people, get back to. And a lot of them are like, I used to play, and I want to play again, right? And so it's that comfortability of getting back out there, putting yourself out there, and so. I think that is whether it's playing with friends, because we do have small groups that sign up and say, hey, it's me and my buddy. We want to go play. We used to play flag football all the time, where we were on a intramural team in college together, or whatever that looks like. And so we do have these small groups, and they're just getting out there, and they're ready to be active. And if we could play a small role in that, right? And it takes the stress off of them, right? There's an outlet for them to do it, and they don't have to look hard, right, to find that outlet. And again, bring them in our tent, and then expose them to everything that we do and everything that we got going on, and how we can connect them to other organizations, other programs, whatever it may be. And then that happens organically too, right? That's just not something that the organization is putting out, right? If they get on this team and they have someone else on that team that they, create a bond with, that they're into something similar, and they're, next thing you know, they're networking for jobs, or networking for other hangouts, or vacations, whatever it may be. I've seen it all happen now in my time here.
Sure, no doubt. So the past 2 years have been really good. Kind of coming out of COVID, like 2 high watermark years in a row. Last year was even more growth. We've had on the PSL side of things, the busiest winter.
Yes.
with all these play solos, right?
Yeah.
And so those are people signing up just to play for that night. It looks like it might be leading to people then forming teams, to your point, and the social cohesion from there. We just got back as a team from a national conference with the SSIA. Can you tell us about what the SSIA is and kind of what's all entailed there?
Yeah, so the SSIA is about as old as I am in this organization. So it was founded in 2010. When I started, I remember the first call from the now executive director of the SSIA that was like, "Hey, I'm putting feelers out, right? You're a sport and social club. That's what many are, because SSIA stands for Sport and Social Industry Association, and there was no association out there that brought all the like-minded businesses together to talk and have conferences about knowledge share and different things. We all run leagues, and rules for softball are the same generally throughout, but there's a lot of marketing experience and AI now, and all these expanding roles, sponsorship that can happen. So they formed this association in 2010. We didn't come on board till I think 2012 was when we came on board. We are a bit different in our setup as an organization. At the time, we were the only nonprofit that we had to get special approval from the board to join the SSIA.
From the SSIA board?
From the SSIA board, yeah. So the executive committee needed to get permission from them just because of how our setup. We run the PSL was like any other business, but with being housed in a nonprofit, it was just different for the amount of members at that time. Now there's a couple of others that have gone down the road to become nonprofits for one reason or another within their own cities. But I want to say, getting back to the conference, I want to say there was around 50 or so clubs. There was almost 200 folks at the conference this year. But yeah, it's basically PSLs around the country. You said earlier, some are multi-city.
Yeah.
Some and the ranges are small, right? I mean, some were just a handful of leagues in Jacksonville, Florida, to multi-city sport and social clubs, Chicago, Austin. That have Jam is in Atlanta and Toronto and up in Michigan, and so they're kind of spread out all over.
Yeah. This is my second year attending. What's been striking is the diversity of the clubs and the expression.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone is essentially doing the same kind of thing,
right?
But it's always different to each context. Remember the Chicago was talking about, they have like a huge sand volleyball tournament. Yes. You know the details there?
Yeah. So it's called Volleywood. And it's on the ocean riverfront, or lakefront, right? Yeah. There, and they had the first one I saw when I saw like a video of it. Yeah. I think it was like In Sync or the Backstreet Boys, and Usher performed. Like it was a concert festival on top of a sand volleyball tournament. Yeah. And you're talking hundreds of teams playing sand volleyball. And it was a wild experience to see that happen, but it was so awesome, the same, like inspiring, right? It was like, this is so cool.
It is.
And so many people are having this wonderful time, and weaving all the different threads of like there's sport and there's festival, and so you didn't have to play to go and get involved, and it was really, really awesome experience, or for those folks, but for me to witness via the promotional video. And then talk to the folks that had boots on the ground, right? And all the behind the scenes headaches and stress and everything that goes on putting like on thousands of persons festival.
Yeah, it's very cool. This year came home with some hardware.
We did. So there is an awards ceremony every year called the Social Star Awards. I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, it was created to recognize, the association, the different programs in the association or the organizations for the work that they do, right? So there's different categories that have, marketing innovation, sponsorship innovation, kind of working together, multi-clubs, playing tournaments, bringing different clubs from multi-cities to one city to play in a big tournament. There's been all kinds of different categories that have been. One of the ones that's been around for a while now is every year all the clubs around the SSIA encouraged to send out this national benchmarking survey, right? It creates a net promoter score for each organization, and it does benchmarks across the whole SSIA. And then if you reach a certain level, you get what's called a Champions Award, and then each year for each category they honor whoever's the highest rated from each category. And so the PSL falls in the 5,000 to 5,001 to 10,000 participant category, unique participants.
These are tiers of club size.
Right, tier club size, right. So this is considered the medium. And so we're proud to say that this year we brought home the highest rated in the medium tier. For us having slightly over 5,000, we were punching up in weight class.
Sure.
The growth over the last couple of years got us into that tier.
Right.
And so there was some very impressive organizations that were a part of that medium tier. And to know that we kind of stand toe-to-toe with them. The work's never done, but it was nice to be rewarded for the work that we do. And it's a nod to all of our members, too. Their feedback and their honesty with us allows us to make things better for them. If we didn't hear from them, if we just had a chat bot, that was on our website that people can, or an info box that people send feedback to, but we're trying to be as hands-on as possible. And for us, that really shone through this year. Additionally, we brought him a second award. This was the first year that the SSIA, it's about 3 years old now, maybe 4. There's a DEI committee, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and they kind of push the envelope across the whole SSIA, giving feedback, asking folks to take a look at their programming, what fits for you, but here's some things to be thinking about. And then this year they honored. Had an award for excellence in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that could have been a person, a program, any type of initiative, whatever that looks like. And we nominated it's all self-nominations. We nominated our Pump to Run program, which we feel is a very valuable, very impactful program here in the city. And so we nominated that and we won. So that was another shock. But it's not shocking in the sense of the program's great.
Right.
It's shocking that it got recognized by so many folks as such a great program.
Yeah, it's so well deserved and a great acknowledgement, certainly. Give us a sense of who else was in the tier on the PSL side of things. What other cities were in that group?
Oh, I'd have to look. I think Charlotte's in there.
Yeah.
Lexington, Kentucky's in there. KC Crew is in there. They're awesome. Yeah, they're a great organization.
Right.
Thinking back to the picture of the stage and who was on that, but that's some of the ones that jump out.
These are big metropolitan areas.
Right.
Right. And impressive clubs within them. PSL's standing not only shoulder to shoulder, but gets an acknowledgement among them. That's really great.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
All right. So, what's on the deck for this year? What's your hope as PSL director for, the program? Obviously, you're getting acknowledged with national awards. We've had 2 great years. I think you do a great job of crediting the broader Pittsburgh community, for a lot of that success. And it's also, I think, great to know that people are interested in playing sports and being active.
Right.
To your point. So, what is all things being equal with weather and all of that, because there's some things you can't control.
Yeah.
What does 2025 look like to the PSL director?
2025 looks like a year of, I'd like to say growth in areas that are sustainable, right? So we don't want to ever outshoot. I mean, it was a runaway train for years. The
PSL.
The PSL was. Yeah. Sometimes, I would close my eyes at night and go whoa, there was so many folks playing tonight, and I'm lucky that we got through it the way we did, and I was living day to day, right? But now, growth in a sustainable way. I think this year could be really an informational gathering year. Taking in, the experiences of these play solos and what that looks like and how that could become a consistent program for us. I think looking at, our current programming, I know Kai, who is our operations manager, she's doing a lot of work and just refreshing some things, right? Taking a look at our rules, taking a look at our website and how that's all set up, how we're communicating. So those are some things that are like changing. They may be small, but it can be impactful, and folks will be aware of that. I'd like to grow our umpire base, right? I think there's a real opportunity there. There's a shortage of umpires across the country.
Yeah.
We heard a lot about it again this past 2 weeks ago now at the conference. Everybody's struggling to find officials. I think we can take that as an opportunity, right? To bring them in, to train them, to improve not only our programming, but if there's any other needs within the city, and we can be a hub for that. I think that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Continue to have our leagues obviously run, and then see what next steps kind of look like for us, right? We're getting close to what the ceiling looks like inside the city. Right. So, I think whether it's permits through fields in the city of Pittsburgh or facilities, there's not a ton of facilities available in the city. We've had some new doors open for us this year. So I think, continuing to fill those facilities with programming, whether it's league based or play solo based or, some other kind of creative opportunity. So I think that is, but then assessing like where else can we move to, right? Is there areas outside of the city that may have a need, right? Is there just kind of finding that, again, information gathering, how can we help? How can we be of, because again, with this remote working environment, there are some people that used to travel into town, hit their softball game up on the way home, right? They may not be coming into town anymore. So how do we go to them?
Right.
How do we take our programming to them? So, that's an area we can do, but just, continuing to push out great programming, consistent programming, quality programming, is always like the main goal. But I think those are some of the similar ones or smaller ones. And then lastly, I would say, as a membership organization, we've really hit the ground running this year with our member benefits program. For some time we've had PSL was the main benefit of having access to the PSL as a member of Pump. I think pushing that forward in a productive way. Again, information gathering of what people want to see as a membership perk, but then also expanding our portfolio of what our membership benefits are. And then again, that's just getting more people involved in different ways and affordable ways and things like that, and giving back to businesses that are local and small businesses. I think it all just ties and meshes well together. So if we can do that, and then not only just start small and build that up, but then have that get a proof of concept, right? We can do this. Our members are active, right?
Yeah.
And they're not just active in their sport, they're active in their community. And they are by going and taking advantage of these, handful of benefits. And so I think if we do that this year too, that's a way to be really successful.
Yeah, and a way for people to engage, with us too, if you have ideas on things that we can bring on. So this member benefits idea has taken up a lot of our time recently, but in a really productive, exciting way. Adding new opportunities, and we're looking at ways to kind of encourage participation with them. To your point, and we had this program, the Hometown Hotspots idea. Can you talk a little bit about the idea behind that? You've talked about it kind of in general, right? The basic idea is people are playing, these leagues, or they're going around the city. Here are restaurants nearby to where you might be playing, and maybe there's a PSL deal of some sort in there, right?
Yeah, so we really had a nice network of bars and restaurants, again, pre-COVID, that we had established that were near where we played and near where our constituents lived. We had a heat map of where everybody lived, and we're really focusing on those neighborhoods. And it was an opportunity for us to work with them and drive traffic to these establishments through our participation. And we know folks are going and they have to eat dinner, right? And and some partake in some beverages after their games, and so we want to give them a place to do it where they feel like they can go and share, and everybody's going to be there, and they're not just leaving the field and scattering across the city, right? They walk in to a Bigham Tavern in Mount Washington, and they see it's the 6:30 game ended, and they see the 8:30 game waiting, finishing up their wings before they're going down to the field. So, really putting that network together, and then getting out there, engaging with folks. And saying, hey, make sure you take advantage of this. And then one of the additional ways we do that is we get our seasonal prizes or gift cards to these places. So it's hey, go grab some apps and drinks on us, as congratulations for winning. Again, I think that social aspect is the real winning, where you've won your league, but you're really winning when you gather as friends and build community. So and then give back, right? So that checks all the boxes, we feel. And so that program it's come back with some gusto, right? And I think there'll be some things we see this year or do this year that you'll be seeing, that our membership will be seeing, that really makes them aware of where we are and where we'd like them to go. And again, our goal is to have some specific, unique to them, discounts, whether that's on a drink, a discount on food, whatever that may look like, but something that makes them feel special and welcomed in these different establishments.
Yeah, makes sense. What else is on your mind? Anything else to talk about?
There's a lot. The next one that's creeping up now is we just had registration for our outdoor sports last week, and we're very successful, and we're almost sold out. A couple of kickball teams that were, stragglers that we're hoping to get into the fold, but flag football and softball were sold out, and
it's coming up.
Yeah, the top of mind now is the weather, right? That's what's on my mind.
Yeah, and I mean it's probably worth kind of mentioning. So we mentioned some of our peer cities in the SSIA, like Kansas City. They have their own facility.
Right.
You guys had the conference there. What was it, 3 years ago or now?
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah.
And that was before my time. But it sounded like they have like this massive warehouse gym space. They run leagues out of there. They have their offices in there.
Right.
Our model is different than that.
Yes.
Our model is about activating spaces in partnership with the broader community.
Yep.
So everything we do outside is City of Pittsburgh fields, correct?
Yeah. Every permit we have for outdoor softball, kickball, flag football is permitted through Public Works. So we're a city-based sports league when it comes to our outdoor. Now indoor, we do go on the outskirts a little bit. We're in Homestead, Carnegie Library of Homestead. Yeah. We've played last year. We were in Green Tree. We hope to be back at the Green Tree Sportsplex again this year. So there are some facilities that are outside the city, but not too far out, right? We had played in we had deck hockey in Bridgeville years ago. We played at the turf out in Monroeville in the past, but those were kind of one-offs to fill a need at the time. And so we would be more smart about moving out in those directions. Like I said, maybe multiple programming instead of a one-off kind of thing. But yeah, man, these other these other cities that have their own facility is talk about jealousy, right? I would love to have a space where we can run our own programming and, whether indoor, outdoor, whatever it is, have full reign of that, and then invite folks in and do different things. It would be, it's a place that we could run corporate events. That's another area that I might have spoke about. I think there's a lot of these. The city's a hub for a lot of these larger companies, and they have these health and wellness programs for their employees, and they're bringing them back into town and into work. And we would love to have the opportunity to engage with them folks and put on these events, right? And so you're talking a wide variety of events that we can do, like a field day type atmosphere where there's your giant Jengas versus your tic-tac-toe pong, and all these different kind of events that are not highly skilled, but they're fun. They're inclusive, right, and engaging.
Compete a little bit.
Yeah, you can get accounting versus accounts payable versus some of the other marketing or whatever it looks like, and we'd love to have a hand in that as well, because again, talking sense of community, keep retention, right? People have fun at work, and get that little bit of a break. Is beneficial for those companies too.
Sure. And the rest of the model, we use rec centers, community centers, libraries with gyms, you mentioned,
libraries with gyms, right?
Cornhole at some like restaurants, breweries kind of thing.
Yeah, Hop Farm and
Bigham Tavern on Cornhole.
We play pickleball in Vellum fermentation down the south side. It's a nice warehouse space that they were looking for some. We're very creative. We can be very creative with the use of space, and so we're open to always having those conversations about how can we make this. You have this space available. How can we make it work? Right. Sometimes the answer is we can't. Sometimes the answer is now we have 60 pickleball teams playing at Vellum.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hear you. All right. Any final calls to action? So if people want to get involved with the PSL, think individuals, potential partners, or businesses, why should they reach out?
Yeah, I think the reason they should reach out is we can be as creative as we want. Yeah. We engage with a lot of folks. You're upwards of non-unique. You're pushing 30,000 people a year. Through all of our programming that both within the PSL and then within the pump organization. So we can be creative there. I think we're open to anything. We're not cookie cutter in anything we do. So from sponsorship to events to space, I think we try and be as flexible and creative as possible. There's never hard no's, when it comes to anything. There's always a dialogue. So I think that being open to those opportunities, and then we just have a very engaging and active membership, right? Yeah. It's not just like, again, to use the word passive, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm a member and they're playing, they're engaging with us, they're coming back, they're playing multiple times. Maybe over the winter time, they're not as engaged because, the programming is not as consistent, between the holidays. But once we got, January rolling again, our folks are engaged. We have, our big Kickball for a Cause charity tournament coming up. The nominations are open for any organization in town that fits within our mission of our organization to throw their hat in the ring to become a beneficiary and get, upwards of $10,000+ for engaging with us again at a kickball tournament. So, we're looking forward to that in August, second Saturday in August 9th this year.
August 9th this year.
So again, there's opportunities like that where you don't have to, you're just the beneficiary and we can get you involved there. Then there's sponsorship opportunities, there's activation opportunities. Like there's just a whole, all these categories I think we can fit into. So I think there's opportunities for everybody out there.
That's right.
From organizations, leadership, all the way down to, your everyday employees.
Which is exciting.
Yeah. Right.
It's a cool thing to have in the community.
Right.
And you've obviously had an incredible perspective, on it, as both a participant and a doer for many years now. Well, I think that makes sense to kind of close it out there. Right. We're looking forward to another good year this year. As you mentioned, registrations have already been open, so keep an eye out.
Yeah.
By the time you see this, it might be a little too late on some of these leagues, so they've been selling out very quickly. But to play solo nights, we'll have service projects. We're in the planning phases of a mayoral forum. There'll be bike rides this summer, lots of fun events. So kind of stay tuned to social media, stay tuned to the website, and we'll communicate out as things become available. But if folks are interested in engaging or partnering with us, reach out.
Yeah,
love to talk, love to chat. Like I said, like Greg said, we have a very creative and accomplished team. Right. That we'll get into the details and see what makes sense. But we would love to see more people having more fun. If there's ways to work on that kind of thing together, we love it. Certainly on the recreation side, but community programming, it's a special era in that respect. A chance to really, lean in on that kind of fun, wellness, community connection, vibe that Pump is all about. 30 years next year.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It's quite the accomplishment.
It is quite the accomplishment.
Cheers to 30 more after that, right?
Cheers to 30 more, yeah. I don't have kids yet, but would love there to be a Pump for my kids when they get to that age, if they're in the city of Pittsburgh, right?
My son would be 8 short years away from whatever sport.
Gotta get him out there. He might want us to have deck hockey figured out by then, something like that.
Mario Kart, keep that going.
Go get the esports going. All right, Greg, thanks so much for your work and what you do, man.
That's great, man. Appreciate it.
This is fun. We'll have to try more of this. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sounds good. All right, guys.
Great.
See you next time.
Thanks.